Ready? Welcome over here. Want to answer one of the question from a fan. The question more or less is around whenever you publish a new piece of content, how long does it take for it to show up on Google's search engine results? That say you have a new page, new blog, new obituaries that you posted. In general, how long does it take for it to show up on Google search engine results? And of course, it varies. Typically, what Google does is it will come, these are called bots, that will come and index your website. Typically, it's matters of hours to several weeks based on how dominant and how important is your website. So for example, if it's a newsworthy website, let's say CNN.com, of course, it's constantly getting pinned by Google all the time, right? Hours, it's always, right? Could be hours to minutes to hours. It's constantly pinning these newsworthy sites because they are very, very critical. So that way, that's a earthquake happened. When you Google it, it shows up on Google search engine results right away. So Google will be pinning those newsworthy sites a lot more often versus some of these sites that's not as critical to Google's eyes because it's not the content itself in the website as a whole is not dominant. Then of course it'll take matters of weeks for it to show up on the search engine results. So typically rule of thumb is about a week to a couple of weeks whenever you publish a new piece of content for it to get picked up by Google. So how can you speed up that process to get picked up by Google? So a couple ideas here. First of all, it's still the overall quality of your website, right? The better, in the good old days, there's something called page rank of your website and each individual page is on your site. So Google benchmark, hey, your website's more authoritative than somebody else. Obviously, there's no page rank right now. There's still domain authority, stuff like that. But in general, make sure your website has good quality content. So that way Google trusts your website a little bit more. It's going to index your website a little bit more often. But make sure that new content you published, there's a way to find it. So whenever Google comes, it comes to your homepage first. From your homepage, it starts to, right? It's like a maze. If it's like a maze from Google's point of view, it might not even pick up that content. So it goes from the homepage, start to follow the links to other pages on your site. So if you have multiple layers of your site, it's going to be very hard for Google to find that content. So typically if it's a new content, make sure it's easily found by Google. It's not layers deep. If it's layers deep, then make sure it's linkable from the homepage then. So that way Google can find it. And very often when you publish something, it's like, hey, it never showed on Google. That could be why. It's like, it's layers deep. Google cannot find it. Second is to update your sitemap. So the sitemap basically tells Google, when Google bot comes in, these are all the links on the site. Here's how to find it. So update your sitemap then. And also use the URL inspection tool to make sure it's getting indexed by Google. Okay, so to answer a question, typically, so don't be worried a lot. Typically it does take a week on average for it to get picked up by Google. But typically a little more relevant content like obituaries, they typically get indexed by Google very fast. Thank you.